250 gold stars. Is it worth it? Probably not. But for HK's 250 gold star competition, I set out on the long, tireless, and brutal challenge that is 250 gold stars. And after completing it in 5 months, today I'll be ranking what are, in my opinion, the top 30 hardest CTGP expert staff ghosts. Real quick though, for the HK challenge, I had to beat these ghosts alphabetically, which means that when I got to a hard ghost, I couldn't skip it. Nah, I had to grind it out to get to the next track, which as you'll see in this video, really sucks. Before we get into the list, here are some honorable mentions that barely cracked the top 30. Banished Keep. The ghost drives very well here and makes all the strats 3 for 3, but once you learn the strats yourself, the ghost is very beatable. Desert Fort. This track revolves around making the cut 3 for 3, which requires 2 precise TF inputs. Then, all you gotta do is make the ending strat, which can tragically end a lap 3 run. Dreamworld Cloud Away. I think this ghost is kinda overrated, as the ghost makes many mistakes, such as the realignment lap 2 and the poor lap 3 ending. This turn skip also saves a truckload of time. DS Figure 8 Circuit. Why did such an easy track have this hard a ghost? Just get chain wheelies and pray for this one. Glimmer Express Trains. While the track has a lot of tech to it, you can gain a lot of time on the beginning shortcut by getting multiple tricks, although the ghost and track are still pretty challenging. Lava Road. Similar to Desert Fort, make the cut 3 for 3 and you're golden. Although this track can be kinda hard to see at times, so crank that monitor brightness up. N64 Rainbow Road. A surprisingly difficult ghost for me. You'll need tight lines throughout the track, and the star cut took me a minute to figure out. Summer Starville. A very annoying ghost due to the track itself, especially the beginning section and the cut. How is this track still in the pack? Undiscovered Off Limit. Another overrated ghost in my opinion, as the Flame Miner gains so much time on the spear in certain sections. The difficulty mainly comes from the track itself, in areas like the Zappa River, or whatever the heck this section is called. Unnamed Valley. If you can get 2 to 3 lows, you pretty much win, but man, these lows feel so random at times. It's also very easy to overload trick, which can be very frustrating on a later lap. Finally, Woohoo Mountain. I also think this ghost is a bit overrated, as it's easy to gain time on the ghost, but similar to Undiscovered, it's mainly the track itself, as the realignment after this low is hard, the cave section is bouncy, and this trick just does not work half the time. Wow, that was a lot of honorable mentions, but with that out of the way, let's get into the real list. At number 30, we have Final Grounds. The staff ghost is a 253.298 by Mega, which is 5 seconds off the BKT. The thing I struggled the most with was making the shroomless consistently, as it's easy to go too high or too low on it. Other than that, the track can be a little awkward to drive at some points, but once you make the shroomless consistently, it's not too bad. I also got pretty lucky with the boost panel strat lap 1, which saves a good amount of time on the ghost. At number 29, we have New Moon Manor. The staff ghost is a 254.836 by Dacia, which is 6.6 seconds off the BKT. Dacia drives really well with this ghost, making little to no mistakes, although he does use King Boo, so you gain a lot of time just by using Funky Kong. The biggest issue I had with the track was bouncing over the ramps, specifically the first ramp and the following ramp, as these would kill many of my runs. The shroomless is also kind of annoying, but it's consistent when learned. Oh yeah, don't hit the Goomba lap 3. At number 28, you have Tropical Factory. The staff ghost is a 302.054 by Emil, which is 10.5 seconds off the BKT. Thank God, Emil only takes the big cut once, as doing it twice yourself makes the ghost significantly easier. However, it's easier said than done, as the cut itself can take a while to figure out, and is very easy to fail. Apart from that, this track is actually kinda fun to TT, although this metal chain link section is kinda janky to drive, and some of the tricks are inconsistent. At number 27, we have Volcanic Valley. The staff ghost is a 226.154 by Pascal, which is 3.2 seconds off the BKT. Rails. That's pretty much all this track is. Stay on the rails, take tight lines, and you'll win. The ghost even uses its third shroom in a poor spot, so saving it till the end gains time on the ghost. Just remember not to dive off too early on the ending strat. At number 26, we have Sahara Hideout. The staff ghost is a 228.681 by Jast, which is 4 seconds off the BKT. Normally this ghost would be higher on the list, but this ghost has insane cheese to it. On this shroom cut, you don't actually have to stop in the sand. It's possible to clear the gap without stopping if timed correctly. This gives you a pretty nice lead over the ghost, which is probably why I beat this ghost relatively quickly. This track still has some difficult sections like the shroom cut and the shroomless, but the lead you get makes it so much easier. At number 25 we have Daisy's Palace. The stat goes to 231.482 by a meal, which is 4 seconds off the BKT. I had a really hard time figuring this track out, constantly switching between Funky and Daisy, but I ended up landing on Funky to beat the ghost. Emil drives very well considering he's on Bullet Bike, using it to the best of its abilities on the spiral and the ending section. Speaking of the spiral and ending section, those are probably where I lost most of my runs. For the spiral, I found it hard to optimally time release my MT, and the ending section as a whole feels very unnatural, especially the shroom cut. Many won't find this ghost too difficult, but I'm just built different I guess. At number 24 we have Garden of Dreams. The stat goes at 230.048 by GU, which is 4.1 seconds off the BKT. This track is insanely line heavy, as one small mistake can end your run on a good pace. GU gives you no breathing room as you push your way through all the tiny micro bounces this track has to offer. That being said, I didn't mind the time I spent on Garden of Dreams, as this track is visually amazing. Holy, why can't we get more tracks that look like this in the pack? At number 23 we have Twin Peaks. The stat goes to 302.369 by Russo X, which is 5.5 seconds off the BKT. This track is long, which makes it really easy to make a silly mistake. Russo's driving isn't amazing or anything, but he handles all the turns really well, especially this one turn that I refuse to believe was playtested. The train is a bit annoying, but it usually shows up at the start of your laps and the cave section. Getting this gold star is pretty much a 3-minute endurance challenge. At number 22 we have Desert Castle Raceway. The stat goes to 3-minute.016 by Pascal, which is 4.5 seconds off the BKT. Pascal takes very clean lines while nailing every strat, making it hard to even keep up with the ghost. Luckily, you don't actually have to keep up with the ghost, as Pascal doesn't do the ending low on either lap. This means that to beat the ghost, all you gotta do is stay relatively close to it, then pass it with the ending low trick, as it saves at least a half a second on both laps. Apart from that, I found these ramps kind of inconsistent. This turn can be hard to take if you get a bounce, and this bridge just loves to kill your speed. At number 21 we have Rainbow Road. The stat goes to 232.375 by Ando, which is 8 seconds off the Kart BKT, and 5.5 seconds off the Flame BKT. Yeah, even as someone who's played a good amount of RTs, this ghost took me a decent amount of time to beat. This is because I'd never seriously TT'd this track before, and was doing all the strats wrong. So shoutouts to Landon, Snoopy, Claus, and Ghost for teaching me the optimal lines and tech. Onto the track itself, it's clunkier than most CTs and has many reset points, such as the Wheelie Moon Jump Lap 1, a Shroomless Cut, the Half Pipe, the Lap 3 Wavy section trick, and the ending itself. All of these sections have high learning curves, and can take a while to pull off quickly and consistently. At number 20 we have Melting Magma Melee. The stat goes to 253.787 by Russo X, which is 13 seconds off the BKT. 13 seconds may sound crazy, but if you watch the BKT you'll understand. Regardless, this is one of, if not the hardest track to drive in CTGP, and one that tilted me like crazy. I pretty much instantly gave up on outlining the ghost, and resorted to the Shroomless Cut 2-for-2. Now, if you can make the Shroomless Cut 2-for-2, this ghost is free. The only problem is, I am terrible at the Shroomless. Luckily, since the ghost never takes the Shroomless turn skip, you don't need good landings. So on lap 1, I literally charged an SSNT to get back to speed. Then on lap 2, I used the extra stream to get back to speed. It looks dumb, but it works, and that's all that matters. The normal shroom cut is also kind of annoying, but simply staying on the track is definitely the hardest part. At number 19, we have N64 Bowser's Castle. The stat goes to 234.577 by Russo X, which is 4 seconds off the BKT. This track is all about alignments, as any misalignment loses a good chunk of time on the ghost. Don't let the fact that Russo uses Bowser Jr. Mach Bike deceive you, as he uses the Mach Bike to the best of its abilities, especially on the cut and the ending spiral. An underrated part about TTing this track is the lap 2 second sliding thwomp. You either have to squeeze through the left of it, or lose time and go wide. Luckily on my run, my lap 1 sucked anyway, so I didn't have this issue. Of course, I have to mention that the cut is hard to take tight, and the fire coat lap 3 as well as all the nerves can sadly end a run. At number 18, we have Desert Mushroom Ruins. The stat goes to 207.822 by Cobalt, which is 3.3 seconds off the BKT. I honestly don't remember playing this track at all. In fact, I forgot it was even in the pack. But after watching my run back, this ghost took me a few hours to beat, mainly because of the shroom cut lap 1. I'd say about a good 85% of my runs died there. But once you get past the cut, the track isn't too hard to figure out, although Cobalt still manages to put up a good challenge on Spear. At number 17, we have Big Nature City. The stat goes to 236.560 by Gnome, which is 5.7 seconds off the BKT. This track is surprisingly technical, as evidenced by Gnome having a task beginning of lap 1. I had a couple issues with the track, such as the highway section being bouncy, this random slippery road, and this red car that gets in your way on both laps and feels very sketchy to avoid. I also, for whatever reason, never learned how to do this indoor section properly and lost a lot of time on the ghost here. Luckily, the ghost uses its last shroom in a suboptimal spot, as it's actually faster to use it in the item shop cut lap 2. This ghost pretty much comes down to outspeeding Gnome, which is way easier said than done. At number 16, we have Dragon Burial Grounds. The stat goes to 220.010 by Dacia, which is 3.5 seconds off the no glitch BKT. Although it took 7 hours to beat this ghost, for about 4 to 5 of those hours, I was using the wrong shroom strat. Contrary to the expert stat ghost, you actually want to take the shroom cut lap 1 and do a shroomless lap 2. This makes it so that you can get some lava pillar tricks, and it makes the ending blow up cycles way more forgiving. Regardless, the track itself is very hard to drive and easy to make mistakes on. Even on my run that beat the gold star, I made many mistakes, such as not getting a wheelie here, missing the zipper trick lap 2, a very poor shroomless, and magically levitating over a boost panel, cause that's my fault. Additionally, some other sections I struggled with were the spiral, the ending straight, and this shroomless kit, specifically on lap 2. All of that, combined with an insanely clean run by Dacia, makes this one of the hardest gold stars in the game. At number 15, we have Mansion of Madness. The stat goes to 255.38 by Silver, which is 4.3 seconds off the BKT. Not only is this track hard to look at, it's also quite hard to drive, with many difficult sections such as this trick, not hitting the spikes on either lap, getting the stick on the wall glitch, and maintaining speed on the ending section. The ghost even gets the boost panel strat lap 1, which isn't necessary, but can definitely help in beating the ghost. Luckily, you can gain time on the shroom cut, as the ghost takes it quite wide on both laps. Not much to really say on this track, other than good luck. At number 14, we have Magmatic Sanctuary. The stat goes to 239.542 by Jas, which is 3.5 seconds off the BKT. Before TTing this track, it was in my bottom 10, as I thought it was just dark and ugly. However, after TTing this track, it may just be in my top 10, as this track feels insanely satisfying to drive, especially the shroomless cut. Onto the ghost itself, this is another very strong Jas ghost, as the only mistake they make is missing the low on lap 2, which feels kinda random at times, but is mostly consistent. While the shroomless feels nice, it's very easy to miss the rail entirely, and getting a mini turbo after the shroomless can be a bit challenging sometimes, and I suggest practicing this ending strat so that you don't fail at lap 3 like I did. At number 13, we have Hell Pyramid. The stat goes to 226.005 by Soon, which is 3.3 seconds off the BKT. I'm probably overrating this ghost, as many will beat it in only a few hours or less. But man, this ghost had me struggling, as you gotta TF over this piranha and hit this low, which feels impossible at times. Then you gotta hope you're aligned well for this low trick. The shroom cut is also a run ender, as the approach for the shroom cut can be kinda bumpy, which can either give you not enough air or send you extremely wide. On this ending section, sometimes your hop trick decides it doesn't want to come up, and it's also very easy to overshoot the low on this ramp. I beat this ghost by 0.003 seconds, and I do not plan to come back to this track anytime soon. At number 12, we have Vile Isle. The stat goes to the 209.636 by Melg, which is 2.3 seconds off the BKT. This is probably one of my least favorite tracks in the pack, and TTing it felt like such a chore. You are immediately thrown into the inconsistent stick trick, which can send you in many different directions. Then there's this turn that gives you a different angle each lap. And how could I forget the little shroomless cut? Here's a tip to make it consistently. As you approach the shroomless, bring your head as close to your monitor as possible. This makes it so that you can actually see where the outford begins, as normally it's impossible to do so from a distance. Finally, the ghost has his task low trick 3 for 3, which I could just not figure out, and I almost sold my gold star run by getting a side trick at the end, but we clutched it out. At number 11 we have Wolf Castle Grounds. Stat goes to 234.011 by Backcake, which is 3 seconds off the BKT. How Backcake managed to set this time on such a precise track with Bowser Jr. Mach Bike is beyond me, as they make light work of the tech. While this low and some of the turns are hard to take, the hardest part about this ghost is definitely the ending section. I swear my brain just explodes every time I get to this point. To start, there's the hop trick, which is quite precise and easy to miss entirely. Then you gotta aim left, spin drift over the gap while aiming right, get a wheelie, and pray you get a good drift trick off the final ramp. Most of my runs ended there or on the shroom cut, which feels a bit awkward as you're shrooming into the ground. Still, this is a very strong ghost that barely cracked the top 10. Kicking off the top 10 we have Pipe Underworld. A 310.310 by Mega, which is 4.7 seconds off the BKT. This gold star is similar to Dragon Burial Grounds, in that it has a very hard ghost with a hard to drive track. So many things can go wrong here, such as the red pipe skip, landing on the edge of the pipe here, getting this low trick, this turn lap 1, and this boost panel lap 2 and 3, which similar to that one Twin Peaks turn I refuse to believe was playtested, as it is so easy to just not get a trick on it. Fun fact, I almost beat this gold star on my second attempt, but after failing said attempt, I couldn't get past lap 1 for 2 hours straight. This track is grueling, tilting, and any other syllable of those two words. At number 9 we have Honeybee Hideout. The stat goes to 243.751 by Z-Cube, which is 3.7 seconds off the BKT. I actually had a lot of fun on this track, as I think it looks great and it's fun to drive, although there are two major issues which ended most of my runs. First, there's the two tree branches at the start. These have steep learning curves as you release your MTs and wheelie in ways you wouldn't normally expect to. Then there's this turn which feels very unnatural to take. You may try to get 2 MTs on this turn, but just hold one, as it'll set you up nicely on the cut. And if you find yourself going wide on the cut, try starting your drift earlier. Also, the bees have weight hacks on this track, so do your best to avoid them at all costs. Z-Cube's driving is very solid, makes no mistakes, and will push you to your limits on this track. At number 8 we have Fungal Jungle. The stat goes to 203.365 by CC, which is 3 seconds off the BKT. This gold star is all about two things, the lows and the shroom cut. For the lows, watch out especially for the second and fourth low trick, as the ground after the second low is pretty bouncy, and a poor fourth low can send you really wide, which lost me a good amount of lap 3 runs. The shroom cut is also difficult, as it's hard to hit the proper part of the mushroom, but you can save some time on the ghost by not tricking off the mushroom. CC forces you to really squeeze out your MTs on this track, which can be hard especially on this turn right here. I was so nervous on my lap 3, I ended up doing this, but luckily we still clutched out the ghost. At number 7 we have Superstar Dystopia. The stat goes to 217.005 by Pascal, which is 3.1 seconds off the BKT. Oh boy, another hard Pascal ghost. Gee, I sure hope this is the last time we see him on the list. As you could probably tell, I did not enjoy playing this track. For starters, there's the shroom cut, which killed most of my lap 2 runs, as it's very easy to aim too wide and fall off. Then there's this turn, which is tricky to take tight on both laps, and don't even get me started on the moon jump, where it's so easy to overshoot the boost panel entirely. Additionally, it can be hard to get a trick here due to all the speed you have, and the lap 1 pokey is low-key kinda scary. All in all, this track requires a lot of learning and accuracy to beat this behemoth of a ghost. At number 6 we have GCN Wario Coliseum. The stat goes to 231.793 by Soon, which is 4.9 seconds out the BKT. This track just simply does not work on Mario Kart Wii, and in my opinion shouldn't even be in the pack. One of the most demotivating things about this track is that it's banned in any form of competitive play, which means I can't even apply any of the skills I learned. Well, it's not like I have any skills anyway, as this ghost took everything out of me. All of the turns feel terrible to take, this wheelie strat loves to count you out of bounds, and this ramp in general all contribute to how much I dislike this track. I got so desperate, I started making up strats of my own, which were definitely slower by the way. There's only 2 reasons I beat this ghost. 1, Soon ints the heck out of his lap 2, especially on this turn where you can gain so much time on Daisy. And 2, what I'm calling the claw shroom strat. Instead of using your second shroom here, hold it for the ending straight and use both of your shrooms here. Okay, I'm done talking about this track, next. At number 5 we have Dia Shroom Ridge. The staff goes to 156.525 by Emil, which is 2.5 seconds off the VKT. Emil has to be using 200cc hacks or something, because he drives insanely fast, narrowly squeezing in between the cars. Speaking of, these cars are brutal, man. I definitely recommend using the 201 Shroom strat, as this makes it so that you mainly have to watch out for these 3 cars lap 2, and these 2 blue cars lap 3. I used my last Shroom on lap 3, as I found the truck got in my way on lap 2, and it feels so satisfying to Shroom past the ghost at the very end. I also had the most lap 3 fails on this track, as it is so easy to let the nerves get the better of you, but once you get past all that, this ghost feels very satisfying to beat. At number 4 we have Abandoned Boardwalk. The staff goes to 256.457, which is 3.2 seconds off the VKT. Dacia drives this track very well considering he's on Spear, fighting up the spiral slip, and even having 3 strong Shroom cuts. You might find my ranking on this track a bit surprising, as most might not even have it in the top 25. But this was the single most demotivating ghost that I ever beat. Everyone else in HK was beating this ghost with relative ease, while I was really struggling on it. Looking back at it now though, I don't even know what I was struggling on. The layout isn't that hard to figure out. To make matters worse, this is the first gold star that I attempted due to the alphabetical challenge. The amount of pain this track caused me gets the number 4 spot on my list. At number 3 we have DS Warrior Stadium. The staff goes to 203.669 by Echo, which is 2.7 seconds off the VKT. This ghost is absolutely mental, as Echo doesn't hold back a single thing in this run. We start off with the first 2 turns, which can be a surprising run under if you don't release your MT properly. Then there's this section, which ended most of my runs, as you have to boost off this panel, then get a low trick off the second panel. The low trick is definitely the hardest part, as it's hard to even get a hop out in the first place, and not getting the low will send you flying into the air. Then there's the Shroom cut, which is made harder due to this random piece of faulty collision, and finally it's easy to take the ending section super wide. All of this combined with Echo's run earns DS Wario the number 3 spot. At number 2 we have Obstagoon's Palace. The staff goes to 254.675 by Melg, which is 3 seconds off the VKT. This in my opinion is the best driven staff ghost, as Melg's driving is buttery smooth. They take every turn tight, get the fountain trick 3 for 3, and handle anything this track throws at them. The hardest part about this ghost for me was setting a run, as there are so many things that can go wrong. Hitting the fireball, failing the cut, failing the fountain trick, missing this trick, or just failing the ending section. The ending section reminds me of Wolf Castle Grounds, in that there are so many inputs required in just a short amount of time. The only place I could gain time on this ghost was the Shroomless cut, as the ghost goes a bit wide on it, but other than that, good luck breaking away from this ghost. Beating this gold star is a massive achievement, but there is one more gold star that I think is harder than this one. Finally, at number 1, we have Castle of Darkness. The staff goes to 259.452 by Pascal, which is 6.3 seconds off the VKT. Pascal goes crazy on this run, with an especially optimized lap 1. This track has so many difficult sections, such as these boost panel roads, which are similar to the ones on Mention in Madness, and hard to keep speed on. The low tricks, which are really easy to overshoot. This boost panel thing, which can send you in a million different directions. The alignment into the Shroom cut, which is oddly precise for some reason. And finally the wall bounce, which can tragically end a run. Just figuring out how to drive these sections took me a couple hours, and can feel very frustrating to nail down. Luckily, Pascal takes his foot off the gas on laps 2 and 3, so if you manage to hit both the lows, you can gain a bunch of time on the ghost. Regardless, this in my opinion is the hardest CTGP expert staff ghost to beat, due to its lethal combination of one of the hardest tracks and one of the hardest ghosts. Now, there's this Mickey Mouse strat that for some reason I didn't bother learning on my run. But holy, it makes the ghost significantly easier. As I was recording this video, I literally beat the gold star with the Terrace strat in 5 minutes. I'm just gonna pretend this strat doesn't exist, and keep Kart at the number 1 spot. And that was my ranking. Let me know what you think about it. And while you do think about it, here's a little graphic with all my rankings to make things easier to see. This also includes the amount of time it took me to beat the gold star in hours. And if you plan to get 250 gold stars, I highly recommend not beating these in alphabetical order. Just do it in whatever order you like. I mean, who wants to play Castle of Darkness as their 20th gold star anyway? Finally, this video would not be possible without the Auto TT Recorder, so a link to that will be in the description. With that being said, thanks for watching, and see ya!